Welcome to TechWire in Studio, a conversation about technology, government, and California's digital landscape. My name is Christina Gagnier, and today I'm joined by Ron Hughes, the Director of California's State Data Center, as well as Gregg Descheemaeker, an Intel executive. Ron, Gregg, thank you for joining me.
Good to see you.
So we're going to talk about cloud computing today, but many people have no clue what that is. So what is cloud computing?
So it depends on your definition. There's obviously different kinds of clouds. There's a private cloud, which is dedicated resources either located on your raised floor or the vendor's raised floor. There's a public cloud, which is shared resources on the vendor's raised floor. And then there's what a lot of people call a hybrid cloud, where your main IT processing might be on the private cloud, but as you need capacity, you burst out to the public cloud.
Yeah, and you know, at its most basic form, it's what we think of as a pool of elastic compute resources that can be provisioned and orchestrated in a automated and on-demand fashion. And so that's really the promise that we see in cloud.
So what does that mean for California's data center? I think a lot of citizens and our viewers probably have no idea that we have a data center, but for such a large operation such as the state of California, it makes perfect sense.
Right, it really does. And so we're going to have a public and a private cloud service offering. Our private cloud service offering is going to be located on our raised floor, both in Sacramento and Vacaville. The advantage of that is that the equipment's located on our raised floor, so it eliminates some of the concerns about security and privacy that you have with the public cloud. The other thing it does is it sets us up for disaster recovery from day one. So that's going to be our public clouds, our cloud service offering. It's going to be a private cloud located on our raised floor, but also the access to a public cloud as needed. And we're going to really leave it up to the CIOs to determine where it makes sense to run their systems.
Now, Gregg, I know that Intel works a lot with government, and obviously you run the state data center. How is this going to change how government operates?
Well, I think first and foremost, the things that Ron was just talking about as far as offering capabilities that would otherwise not be there within an individual department or agency. When you talk about shared services and what cloud as a foundation layer can provide for individual agencies, departments, and for that matter, as we look outside of the state into county and city government, education, there's a great opportunity for those smaller entities to have capabilities that they would have not otherwise had.
Yeah, and some other advantages is the speed to provision. So it's going to enable us to provision systems much quicker. So for example, if you were a department and you needed a test and development environment, you might have to go through the budgeting, the procurement, the setup, the delivery, the configuration. That could take you a year, 14 months to set up a test and development environment under today's, the way things operate today. With cloud services, you'll be able to provision those in a matter of hours. For a really large system, maybe a matter of weeks. So it's really going to speed up the way we provision IT systems.
From a day-to-day perspective for government employees, what will it mean? There's a lot of conversation about portability, being able to work from home when there's cloud services, bring your own device is an issue that often comes up when you're talking about the cloud. So how will it impact that day-to-day?
So one of the modules that we're going to have as part of our cloud service offering is virtualized desktops. So everybody knows about tablet and mobile devices. Just a couple of stats, by 2012 there's going to be 120 million of these sold in the US, and by 2014 400 million. So bring your own device is a reality. We have to figure out how to manage those devices. Having cloud services, having the option of virtualized desktops is certainly going to help us with managing those devices.
Great.
In addition to that, I would just say that when you think of what this means to the employees of California, the citizens of California, cloud as an enabler is going to be one of the components that when we think about big data, when we think about mobility that you just touched on, it really serves a great function in terms of greater access and easier access to the data that sits currently in siloed areas. And as such, you know, we think of what that'll mean to, you know, the areas of improving healthcare, improving transportation, improving education. Today they get their data in very siloed manners. Cloud will serve as a great enabler to improve in those areas.
Yeah, it'll also enable us to be more efficient, to lower cost. It'll allow us to scale up and scale down. So let's just say you're a department and you have a peak workload. Say that peak workload only lasts for a month or two. The way we design IT systems out, we design for that peak workload. So you may have your systems running at 20% of capacity 10 months out of the year. With cloud services, you'll only pay for the capacity you use, so you can scale up during the peak season and scale back when you don't need those resources.
So moving from old data systems to new ones such as the cloud opens up a variety of resources which were previously probably unaccessed or maybe allocated in the wrong place. We've had the opportunity at TechWire to conduct a variety of interviews with both local and state officials about the cloud and its impact on their own role in government.
Well, actually, the cloud has been around for a long time under different names. It started out with software as a service, which was a type of initial cloud. And then it moved into a private cloud, which really benefited a large organization with multiple business entities under that one organizational umbrella. And now it's moved into a public cloud environment that actually allows more data sharing to the public. When the City of Fresno first looked into cloud technology, we actually created a hybrid cloud. And we partnered with our City of Clovis, which is our neighboring city, as well as the Clovis Unified School District. And that allowed us to actually share data for public safety and GIS data, but also share infrastructure through our comprehensive fiber plan. So that really helped share resources on a regional basis using that hybrid cloud.
Well, the impact on government services really, we're hopeful, will be one of two or three different impacts. One, that we're able to provide computing resources on a faster basis, on a more timely basis. A customer would be able to come in and say, these are my needs, and have them provisioned very quickly, hopefully even in a self-service sort of a capacity, so that they can serve themselves. Secondly, they should pay only for what they use, so it'll be a lot more cost-effective for them rather than having to pay the full freight for a pool of resources and ongoing maintenance and upkeep of those systems.
Our interviews gave us the opportunity to discuss the promise of the cloud as well as some of the liabilities of using the cloud. And cybersecurity has to be an issue we discuss when we're talking about the cloud. So what is your take on the actual security issue that the state of California might face, the citizens of California might face, and how do we combat them in the use of the cloud?
So I think actually moving to cloud services for the state of California at least will be an improvement in our security posture. A lot of the concerns about security and privacy in the cloud settings are in public clouds. We're really doing a private cloud located on our raised floor. We're also going to have an option for a public cloud. But what moving to cloud services will do for us is let us establish minimum levels of security that you can't go below. And hopefully you'll go above for our customers. So I think, long term for us, moving to cloud service will actually enhance our security policies.
And Gregg, what's your take on this? Your company does a lot of work with government, and you guys are helping to provide infrastructure. So how do you think that this is going to shake out?
Yeah, well, in building on what Ron just said there, if we take lessons learned from public cloud environments that have been in place now for a number of years, and what they've had to do to ensure the security and privacy of people's information, whether it be Amazon with transactional-based data, or your banking environment, et cetera. To Ron's point, I think there's actually a great opportunity in public sector to improve on your security posture based on some of the inherent capabilities that cloud offers.
Right, and I think you have to differentiate between a perceived security issue and reality. There really haven't been any major security incidents with private clouds. In fact, if you look at the last two security incidents that occurred in Utah and South Carolina, those were in government-owned and managed data centers. They weren't in a cloud service offering.
So we still are facing liabilities with the cloud, but actually some of the real liabilities are with traditional data storage.
Right. I mean, there are challenges in operating a data center and in managing data in any environment.
So when we talk about data centers, I can't help but bring up Hurricane Sandy and the fact that the infrastructure that it destroyed was critical communication infrastructure. How does the cloud help to combat those issues in the future? I mean, we've had several natural disasters where information flow stopping has been critical and has actually harmed a lot of people because they couldn't get the relevant information. How will the cloud transform that? Maybe you can discuss now, and then Greg, maybe you can reflect on what will happen in the future.
Sure. So if you look at what cloud services will do for us today, we're going to have disaster recovery built into our cloud service offering from day one. So we'll be able to give our customers DR in Vacaville from day one. The other thing that it does for us today is they'll have the option of storing their data in the cloud. Again, if it's not mission critical, if there's not concerns about privacy, maybe you store it in Sacramento, in Vacaville, and in the cloud. So you've got true regional diversity in your disaster recovery solution.
And looking out into the future, and again, thinking of cloud as an enabler, not as the answer all by itself, but cloud as an enabler when we think of how we use data, and especially this big data conversation, and what it means to mobility and the social networks. I think you put this into the context of emergency management. And today, where we think about a storm like Sandy moving into an area and having only 48 hours of real good data of saying, all right, we need to evacuate maybe a 300 or at best a 100-mile area. I think we fast forward 3-5 years down the road, maybe even less, where we, from an emergency management standpoint, we're evacuating a zip code with a much longer lead time using the data that's available to us from across many areas.
And finally, you're sponsoring a conference in January all about the cloud and security issues. Can you talk a little bit about that so our viewers can check that out?
Absolutely. The conference is going to be January 30th at the Sheraton Grand, downtown Sacramento. It's from 8 to 5. It's free, but does require you to pre-register. It's going to be a great conference. We've got speakers from all over the country. We've got people there that have actually implemented cloud services in a government setting. So it's going to be an opportunity to talk to them and get sort of a lessons learned from them. And we have Intel is providing the keynote speaker, and their Director of Planning and Research is going to talk about the managing the future cloud services. So it should be a very, very good conference. We would encourage all of your viewers that are interested in cloud services to attend.
Well, it sounds like a great opportunity, and this conversation has been a great opportunity for me to learn from both of you more about cloud computing. So thank you, Ron and Greg, for joining me today. And thank you to the TechWire audience for joining us once again. I'm Christina Gagnier, and thank you for joining us in a conversation about technology, government, and California's digital landscape.